So as Daniela already said, we are now entering kind of the bit more practical part of this course. So the idea of these case study sessions is basically to reflect how everything that you've learned so far in theory, background, ethics, how this actually affects real people. So yeah, welcome to the case study sessions. I'm just going to give you a very brief overview of what you can expect for the next 4 sessions that we're having this evening and tomorrow morning. Basically, we're going to be moving through the recruiting process together. So we have 4 sessions and each kind of reflect one part of the recruiting process. Today, in the first session, we're going to be talking about job advertisements. So that's kind of the first stage. You send out a job ad, you use different platforms to reach many people, and there some algorithmic systems already come into play. We're going to look at recommender systems in particular. Then the text session 2. So you've seen the job ad, you've applied, you've sent out your CV. Now it's time for screening the CV. And we're going to look at kind of which tools come into play there and how people are affected by them. Then tomorrow morning, we have an early start at 9. We're going to be looking at job interviews in the 3rd session and different tools that are used to assess people in video and audio interviews. And then the 4th session, we're moving a little bit away from like the very like tightly defined parts of recruiting. We're going to look what happens once you've actually got a job and you've entered the company. And there we're going to talk about algorithmic management and people analytics. So maybe before we start, Daniela has already said this. These are interactive sessions, so please feel free to speak up, especially if you're usually somebody who's maybe quiet. This is your moment to contribute. We want to know about your experience and your insight into these topics. Give others the space to speak as well. If you know like that you talk a lot, then consider maybe giving the voice to somebody else once we're talking. And on the timing, so we have 4 sessions that are 1.5 hours to 2 hours each. We're going to see how we kind of get through them. This is the first time I'm giving this course, so we may see where we may need a little bit more time, or with some sessions we may need a little less time, but I'm sure that we're going to find this out together. Yes, and I'm interested in your experience. I already said this. Yes, okay. To start off, overview of session 1, we're going to start with some introductions. In a moment, I'm going to introduce my organization and myself and ask you to introduce yourselves a little bit. Then we're going to get a bit theoretic inputs about job advertisements and recommender systems. Then we have a group exercise on bias. And then I'm going to present the first case study, which is an experiment that colleagues of mine did on Facebook job ads. And we're going to have another group exercise on this case study. So first of all, I'm going to start with the introductions. So Algorithm Watch, we're a human rights organization based in Berlin and Zurich. We basically fight for a world where technology benefits people, and especially algorithmic systems, algorithmic decision-making systems, and AI. And we want technology to make the world more democratic, more inclusive, more sustainable, and fight instances where technology is actually not furthering these goals. How do we do this? We have kind of different strands within the organization. We do our own research and investigations. We do like experiments, algorithmic audits, journalistic projects, policy analysis, and kind of research projects. And then we also advocate for strong enforcement. So we talk a lot with politicians at the EU level, at the German level, at the Swiss level, and put forth recommendations on how AI should be regulated. So through lobbying, campaigning, advocacy work. And this is actually what I mainly do. So I usually don't teach courses. I usually talk to politicians and write policy briefings. And if you're interested in that kind of work, we can surely find some time within these 4 sessions to talk about that as well. Yeah, and then we also do PR projects. My personal background, I studied political science a long time ago and have worked for different human rights organizations, basically. Before I joined Algorithm Watch about 1.5 years ago, I was working in anti-corruption in a German organization. And before that, I worked for a public affairs firm for some time, and there also for a tech company. So Meta, Facebook, that kind of thing. So I kind of do know both sides a little bit. And yeah, have basically worked in this campaigning policy space throughout my career. But I'm still quite new to the tech world itself. So I really know about the impact on society, more about the technical details that, for example, Daniela could tell you a lot about. So as I said, this is going to be interactive. So I'm going to start with a quick poll just to get an idea of who we have here in the room. And so I would ask you to please go to this site, wooclap.com, use this code, and just tell me in which field do you work, so that we get an idea who is here in the room. And if it doesn't work, just let me know.
Sergio, is the same wooclap.com, and you have to enter this code. I copied for you. KZSQBT. Yeah. From a tablet, wooclap. Don't worry. wooclap.com. Okay. And I copied the code. Yeah.
Okay, responses are starting to come in. I hope you can see them as well. It looks like a mix of people, different backgrounds. Just going to wait for a couple seconds more. I think some people are still missing, but I think we already have a nice overview. Looks like most people are either in law or have a tech background of sorts. And we also have a couple of philosophy people, some HR people, and 2 regulators. Okay. So most people have now responded. I think I'm going to move on to the next question, because I have a second question about your background. Or Danila, did you want to add something?
No.
Okay. So the next question is, how often do you encounter automated decision-making systems in the context of work? Like, what is your experience level with this? Is this something you've never seen? Have you maybe encountered it once or twice? Do you sometimes work with automated systems or encounter them in your work? Is this something that you do regularly, or is it basically an everyday thing? So again, you go again on wooclap, and it's the same code.
Clara.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm getting it right, because
Yeah.
you must put points in never once or twice in every single one of the
Yeah.
5 evaluations. That's the way it works.
I actually just noticed this as well. So this is not the way it's supposed to be. I'm sorry about this. It was supposed to be like one
So
choice.
don't worry, but in order to
Yeah.
agree how we should manage it.
Yeah. So I think this is actually a bit confusing. I don't know if this is really helpful in getting a view. So to get a view, maybe like one of the people who clicked, who uses automated systems very often, maybe you can just raise your hand and give an example.
Okay, myself maybe.
Yes, go ahead. Thank you.
I was used to work in a bank, no, for a year, no, since April last year, not. But banks mainly, all the credit scorings, all the credit decisions are more or less automated, not necessarily deep learning or not necessarily AI, but at least logistic regression.
Okay, maybe we can hear from somebody who's only encountered it once or twice to give an example of what that was. Okay, people are being shy. Does anybody else want to share their experience of encountering automated decision making? Maybe in the context of recruiting specifically.
I actually do. I work as an HCM consultant, which is a consultant for human resources programs. And I usually focus on, like, my role is in the recruiting part. So we use ATS, applicant tracking systems, a lot. And because of that, there is a lot of algorithm in ranking these candidates and the recruiting operations.
Okay, that's great to hear. So we're going to be talking about ATS systems in one of the upcoming sessions. So I very much look forward to kind of your experience with that. Okay, thank you, everybody. I'm going to move on from this slide, and you're going to have more opportunities to kind of share your experience throughout. Okay. First of all, kind of this is a little bit meta, but I did want to start with this because actually talking about case studies in the field of discrimination is quite hard. So talking about individual affected people is quite hard. I mean, we want to understand practical implications of how people are affected. And well, why do you think it is that it's hard to kind of talk about like individuals? Do you have any idea? Yes, please go ahead, Ivo.
Yes, sometimes, or a good number of times, individuals won't even realize they've been discriminated against.
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely a very important reason. Yes, Werner?
Maybe it's more an intuition. So you may have the intuition that you have been discriminated, but it's pretty hard to prove it, no?
Yeah, hard to prove. That's definitely also a reason. So you don't know if you're affected. It's hard to prove. Any other ideas?
Maybe because there is not as systematic and certified method in order to certify a discrimination.
Okay, yeah, it's hard to kind of really certify it. Good point.
And usually,
sorry.
Okay, usually as the candidates, then usually human resources candidates don't get any. I mean, many candidates reported that they don't have at all a positive experience. many times. Many people report that they don't have positive experience with HR recruitment processes, but they don't report this discrimination specifically, because usually they never get specific feedback from the HR, from recruitment processes as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we have here the problem of kind of lacking feedback, so you don't know why actually you were rejected. Okay, I see a couple of more. I saw Roberta, I don't know if she's still got her hand up, and I saw Nina, and I saw Marcella. Maybe we can start in that order.
No, it's okay. What I wanted to say was already said.
Ah, okay. So we move on to Nina.
Yeah, this is maybe very much related to what already Carolina said, that a lot of the times people actually do not know that they actually were discriminated against, because there isn't there is this lack of feedback, so the actual individuals cannot really bring it up, right?
Yes, exactly. Very good point. Okay, Marcella, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to add just that a lot of the softwares that I've heard of people that are using it, they're proprietary, so you don't really know what's going on behind the scenes of the software, unless, you know, it's something that's like Amazon's case that was highly, you know, they were using it, and then like a lot of people, it ended up having a public repercussion. But outside of that, I would say that oftentimes they're using recruitment software, and we don't really have access to audit that.
Yeah, very important reason. Right on. Okay, I see Frida.
Hi, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to add that one of the also issues can be that not only like people who are subjected to ATS might not be aware that they are discriminated or somehow their rights are violated, but also HRs that are using those systems might not be aware that certain acts that they are committing, or like the way they are using ATS might discriminate people, and their like the attitude of not be transparent in feedback to the candidates might also be an issue. And then there's another issue that already was just said before me, that the ATS is just like so like maybe so biased in its algorithm, so HRs like might not be aware that the system is discriminating. So there are like multiple layers of the problem, in my opinion.
Yes, very well put. They definitely are multiple layers. Okay, so then we have Teresa, and then I think after that we'll move on to the next point. So I see one more person. So Teresa, and then we have Shaz.
Hi there. Sorry. Yeah. So I think the person before me has kind of mentioned what I wanted to say, which is, you know, that there's so many layers and aspects to this type of recruitment. It's very difficult to identify, even if you feel you've been discriminated against, to be able to pinpoint which aspect of it was that's actually discriminated. You know, what was the discriminatory factor? So, you know, it's complex. Even if you feel or you're convinced that you've been discriminated against, you know, it's an uphill task to prove it. So yeah. So there's layers, yes.
Yes.
And it's complex.
Definitely there is. Okay, great. Well, thank you everybody for participating so much. You know, it's always a bit interesting to see if in these like virtual settings people actually join into the conversation, and I'm very glad to see that you seem to be an active group and have come up with a lot of reasons, and these are exactly the kind of reasons why it is very hard to kind of identify people and use them as case studies. And it is very hard in this space because I mean, I've also listed some reasons. I'm not gonna list all of them because basically I think all of them have been said. Affected individuals are kind of isolated. They don't know, have I been discriminated against or not? It can be expensive and time-consuming, kind of to come forward. There is a lack of transparency of algorithmic systems. This was said as well. Anti-discrimination organizations and counselors sometimes even don't know because they don't have the technical knowledge. This is all very new, and kind of the social workers who work on these issues might not always be able to recognize that there has been an algorithm there and that this is actually qualifies as anti-discrimination. So we do kind of training sometimes for anti-discrimination organizations, and they really struggle kind of to help people in this field. And I mean, just to kind of summarize the whole topic, sorry, there's an imbalance of power here. On the one side, like in discrimination, you have an individual who's affected in like a big way, might not get a job, for example, or might not even see a relevant job ad. And on the other side, you have like very big systems of power. So big corporations, government organizations, and so on. And so it's kind of very hard for individuals to come forward, and but we need individuals to come forward to be aware of the problem. So it's a bit of a catch-22. Exactly. So now, yes, I see one more hand going up.
I'm so sorry. Can you hear me now? The last computer, I couldn't speak, so I was muted. So
okay.
Yeah, so I'm Teresa. Just to tell you one extra thing that I wanted to also share as kind of coming from my experience. It is, of course, lack of knowledge, I believe, but I also believe lack of knowledge of both, also from the recruiters that use the software and from the citizens that don't know even that they are using the software. And the fact that there is always a huge difficulty in terms of explainability. But I believe that more than ever, and I think you were touching that, it's a question of tolerance. So people think that these kind of things are kind of a collateral effect of modernity, let's say. So there is a huge deficit of rights awareness, and I, at this moment, and that's probably why, being a lawyer, I'm here. I think this is one of the things that we most need to press, that is for the awareness from both sides, because it's a problem from both sides, for the recruiters and for the citizens. So the ones that are in the middle and try to help sometimes are caught also because we don't know what to do, because the lack of explainability and the use and how to apply the law is really very difficult. So I just wanted to point out that tolerance and deficit of rights is probably one of the most important issues that we have to tackle when it comes to discrimination and algorithm bias. Thank you. Sorry.
Yes, no, great. Thank you for that comment. And I completely agree. There is a lack of knowledge, not only around how the technology functions, but also around the rights that people might have, and the rights that they need to respect if it's the case of HR people and so on. We're kind of in a situation where everybody is driving the car, but we don't have any regulation for the car, and nobody's explaining to us how we can actually get the car to drive. So this should definitely change. This is one of the goals that we have as an organization. Yeah, we're going to see how we can move towards that vision. But first of all, I'm going to get back kind of to the moving away from the like more general discussions to kind of bias more generally. And I know you've already had a couple of sessions on ethics and theory, but just to get us started, I wanted to really highlight the point that bias is not something that computers invent. And for this reason, I've brought this little video. It's a very short video. I'm just going to play it now.
This afternoon, we're going to draw people doing different jobs. And the first job we're going to draw is a firefighter.
Have a think in your head what a firefighter looks like.
What's your firefighter called?
Mine's called Firefighter Gary. Firefighter Stan. Firefighter Simon. He's big and strong. He's got a big helmet on.
That's brilliant, isn't it? Next, we're going to draw a surgeon. Have you thought of a name for your surgeon?
Jim Bob.
Jim Bob.
He's a brain surgeon. I think he would wear a stethoscope. He gives you medicine.
That's his ambulance. Okay, next, we're going to draw a fighter pilot.
This is his jet plane. He rescues people. He likes to do stunts in the air and stuff.
Okay, now who would like to meet these people for real?
Yeah! Faye, when you want the dressed up.
My name's Tamsin and I'm a surgeon in the NHS.
My name's Lauren and I'm a pilot in the Royal Air Force. My name's Lucy. I'm a firefighter in the London Fire Brigade.
So who wants to know how to do an operation?
Who's putting it on?
I'll try my
Everyone's done.
stethoscope.
We put this in here.
There you go.
Okay, I'm going to stop this here. Yeah, oops, sorry. It's starting again. So I think that's quite clear. Just a nice example of what we're dealing with here. It is really like a problem that we have as a society. Oops. So how did these risks of discrimination kind of get into the world? I would say these biases that we've just seen, that as we know, like develop at a very, very, very young age, they kind of seep into technology at every point of the technology being made. That means all of the bias that we see in technology in some form or other comes from humans. And there are different points in the development and application process of automated decision-making systems where they come in. I see one more raised hand, but I think I'm going to just get through this presentation, this part of the presentation, and then open up again afterwards, if that's okay. Okay. So in the worst cases, these decisions lead to unwanted or unintended discrimination. And this can be the selection of data, the goals, the models, and the application, just to break it down. And just to see how does this look. So there's a decision about which kind of data are used for training. If you have, for example, a candidate screening system, then and it's trained with historic data, then of course it will reproduce the decisions that were made in the past. And if the decision was to promote or select white men, then that decision is going to be repeated. I think somebody already mentioned the Amazon example. Where the hiring system did exactly that. Then we have the objective. So why are we actually using technology for this? And what kind of, like, what is our goal in using this? Are we kind of, have we thought very deeply about if technology is the right solution for our problem? I think especially in kind of the past 1.5 years, we have seen a lot of kind of AI snake oil and AI being thrown at all kinds of different problems. I think it really is the job of HR people and of company developing this technology to think about what kind of objective technology can address, can solve, and kind of be honest and specific about what we're trying to achieve. Then what kind of a model do we want to use? What some assumptions about reality does this object make? Who translates the complex realities into the mathematical model, and how do they do that? And has it been audited? Are you open to having it audited? Do you let people look into your code? And then in the last stage, the application. So even if you have like a perfect software, it can still be applied in a way that leads to problems. If you don't have enough training, if you're maybe using it for the wrong tasks, and that is another way where kind of bias can seep in. Or if you're kind of trusting your software too much, relying only on the algorithm and not putting in enough thought as a human decision maker. So those are kind of just some examples of where the bias can seep in. Solutions for this could be, I mean, this has also been mentioned by you already, transparency. When is an ADM system used? Which assumptions and criteria is it based on? How is the quality of systems ensured and tracked? Do we know this as somebody who's affected by the system? Comprehensibility or understandability. Is it possible for users of the systems to be affected? I'm sorry, is it possible for users of the system to understand how it works? And just to clarify, this doesn't necessarily mean that you understand like everything like in the technical degrees. It can just mean that you, for example, understand, okay, I put this in and this thing comes out. And I know what to use it for. You don't have to kind of be a tech person yourself for this understandability to work. And then accountability, who's responsible in the end? I mean, this is kind of an ongoing discussion in all of AI at the moment. Who is liable to prosecution if actually discrimination occurs? So in the second session, we will be looking at a lawsuit as one of the case studies, where this kind of question is exactly what is kind of at stake, what is being discussed. Yes. And then this is something that we believe very strongly in. We need public discussion. We as a society need to decide what do we want to use technology for and what do we not want to use technology for. Where do we actually want humans to be involved? I think tech companies, especially like the big tech companies, like to say, come on, trust us, everything is fine. But this is something that should really have some kind of democratic accountability as well. Okay. And are now ready for our first exercise. So this is going to be a quick little exercise, 10 minutes. We will divide you into 4 groups, and you can collaborate anonymously on Jamboards on Moodle. And your task is a very simple one. You're going to search for a couple of gender-neutral job titles with the tool that you have been, or the software you've been assigned, and collect images from kind of the first couple of search results that you get and put them on the Jamboard, and we'll see how good Google, Bing, Unsplash, and Pexel actually are at bias. This is an experiment that my colleague did, Nicola, who's in our journalism team. This kind of research has been done a lot by other organizations as well. What he basically did is that he tested job ads on Facebook and on Google to see who they would be shown to, and he was mainly looking at gender. So kind of to simplify it, that was the thing that he was looking at. Before we get started on the results, a quick introduction, like very simply, on how the targeting on online platforms, specifically on Facebook, works. So step 1 is you as the advertiser can do your own targeting. So you can say like who you want your ads to be shown to. And it can be very specific. I mean, we all know that this is one of the reasons how like a lot of these social media platforms function. It's their business model to be able to reach like very specific people. And the second step that maybe not as many people are aware of, and also the advertisers themselves, like the people who put in the ad may not be aware of, is like an optimization. So what Facebook and other programs do next is to use additional algorithms to optimize ad delivery. And this may introduce hidden biases that even the people who are like the HR people maybe who are putting the ads in are not aware of. And again, this is something where there is no real transparency on how these algorithms work. And if you ask the platforms, sometimes they cannot explain exactly how they work because it's like based on learning algorithms. So in our experiment, we advertise it on Facebook and Google for machine learning developers, truck drivers, hairdressers, childcare workers, legal counsels, and nurses. So some of these jobs have very clear gender connotations, others do not. All ads used only the masculine form for the occupations and showed a picture related to the job. And we conducted the experiment in Germany, Poland, France, Spain, and Switzerland in the respective languages. And there was no targeting that was used except for the geographical area which you have to use. So again, but in the abstract, if you were a real advertiser, you would of course add like more targeting there. These ads like worked, so we got some actual job offers. They pointed to like real job descriptions on Indeed, real offers. And this is kind of like an overview of the results that we got. So on Facebook, it was clear that like Facebook was using quite gross stereotypes to show the ads to people. You can see that the truck driver ads in all countries were shown more to men, and the childcare worker jobs on the other extreme were shown a lot more to women. And then kind of jobs like legal counsel, which are a bit like more neutral in the connotation, were shown to both, a bit more to women actually. Like there was like differences between the countries, but like the trend is similar across the different countries. And just to highlight one example from Germany, truck driver and childcare worker in Germany on Facebook. The truck driver was shown to 4,864 men, 368 women. And the childcare worker ad was shown to 258 men and 6,456 women. And they were both running at the same time using the same targeting. So of course we thought about like, what does this mean? How is Facebook doing this and why? And we started experimenting with the images that were used. So kind of to understand like what actually affects how it's shown to people, we first changed the images. So using the same ads, for example, for truck driver and childcare worker, we added like an image of cosmetics, and then all of a sudden it was shown to 88% women. For like if it stated like a neutral kind of image of a road, it was 50-50. So apparently the image has a big influence on who the ad is shown to. And you see here, like I'm not going to go in that much detail with Google, but Google is generally apparently much better in this experiment. I see there's one question in the audience.
Hi, Clara, Werner. One small question is from the profession. I don't know if for friseur give this I don't know, a title or something like that. There is an imbalance also in Germany, for example, more women rather than men, or otherwise.
I'm not sure if I understand the question.
So if you look, for example, I don't know, truck driver, I don't know which permit do you need to have, no? If you check the permits, there is also an imbalance, and this imbalance is more men rather than women, or you don't know? I don't know.
Is your question if there is more males that work as truck drivers? Or
not really work as, for example, if you see how many people study for nursing, for example, and maybe you have the stereotype woman, but you also have the reality that women are more also study more, are more women that are graduating from nursing rather than men, for example. I don't know if
I mean, I think we all know these statistics. Of course that's the case, but do we want to stay in this world forever? I think that's kind of the question.
No, I know, but in this case, I mean, the example from nursing, it's more clear for me.
So I think there is like, Julie, go ahead.
Yes, I don't know if there was someone else who was raising their hand before, but otherwise, I mean, maybe also just to, what I was wondering is, do you think, or as far as you know, that Facebook does this targeting specifically on the gender of the users or on the user behavior? That, of course, I mean, can be like a proxy, but yes, is that something that we know, that is known explicitly, if it's just on the gender as it is indicated, or if it's based on actually like the user behavior, search behavior, which would be interesting. Thanks.
Yeah, that is a very good question. And the first answer is we don't really know. I mean, some people are trying to find out, but Facebook does not make this transparent. So they don't exactly make transparent which criteria they use for the second round of optimization. And I think they have a lot of data about all of their users, but we don't know which data they actually use to show people. and to not show them. I see there is another hand raised, but I'm also conscious of the time. I think we all, like, the next session is starting at 6, and I think we should all have a short break before that. So maybe write down your questions, and I look forward to continuing the discussion. I mean, we have a lot more sessions to go, so I think we should be able to address them. Okay, so potential consequences that this could have for applicants. I mean, European law forbids discrimination based on a series of criteria. I think in the other sessions, these criteria have already been discussed. Their race, gender, and so on. But the burden of proof is on the complainants. And this is not only true like in the case of recruiting, but also for housing. And if I don't see an ad, I don't know that like that Facebook is making a difference between me and other users. So showing me an ad for a job, showing me an ad for housing, and maybe not showing somebody else this job. And actually, there are people who are trying to again take legal action against this kind of behavior. There have been lawsuits around the housing, so housing ads. And there's also been a lawsuit by female truck drivers in the US. There is like an advocacy group of female truck drivers, and they accused Facebook of having skewed job ads, so discriminating against them because women are not shown these job ads. And like not only for truck drivers, but also for a range of other blue collar jobs, basically, that are kind of traditionally associated with men and which more men work in. Yeah, and I want to come back to kind of the slide that I showed earlier about the transparency, comprehensibility, accountability, and public discussion. So I think what this example kind of highlights a little bit is that all of these four criteria are not really, like, you can't really apply them very well to this Facebook second round of optimization, because it's not transparent to the person who's putting in the ad that there is this second optimization feed. It's not exactly understandable how how it works, so how it affects people. It's like there have been many attempts to kind of do research on this, hold the platforms accountable, but so far, like, nothing really happens. And I feel like Facebook at the moment is at a point where kind of the platform, like, they're putting less money in this kind of thing. You know, they tried for a while to make things better, but at the moment it's just getting a bit more chaotic and trashy over there. So I don't know what we can expect exactly. And there's also not really been a lot of public discussion, again, because this is like mostly a very hidden type of issue. So for the last like 10 minutes, and we should really kind of only do 10 minutes because we need a 10-minute break before our next session. We're going to put you in breakout groups again, and kind of think about kind of a manager role in your team. Maybe decide on one person in your group. Define like 4 to 5 kind of more symbolic criteria that describe the most competent person for this job. And think about which kind of like criteria the platform should target and which not, and like which it should not include, and think about what kind of reassurances you would want to see from the platform to feel confident that it doesn't discriminate.